Hi, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Today, we're diving into the transformational power of art. I'm your host, Rachel, and I'm here with.
Heather. And today we're diving deep into the profound effects of art on the brain and emotional well being.
So, before we get started with all the interesting and transformative powers of art, I'd just like to take a minute to ask you to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and please feel free to leave a comment. We always love to hear from you. We'd like to know what you're thinking and what you're interested in. So, all right, with that, let's get started.
We're going to explore art and integrate the differences of art on the brain. So, we're going to work through or talk about the emotional effects, the cognitive effects of art.
When we engage with art, whether it's visual or auditory, our brains light up with activity. The visual cortex process indicate details of colors in visual art, while the auditory cortex responds to music and other auditory forms.
So, give examples, Rachel. Like,
So, when you're painting or when you're coloring or even just looking at something like very majestic and bright and colorful, it lights up these centers of our brain. And the same thing happens with music or sound or frequencies. Even there's a lot of things will just kind of ignite memories. Certain frequencies will invoke certain feelings
mhm.
within you. And a lot of times, I mean, and you'll know too, like you'll use it in auditory in movies. Like certain sounds will evoke certain emotions within you, as well as like certain designs and colors and patterns. It really kind of, like activates and lights your brain up to just kind of bring certain feelings and emotions to life, or to be like come out and to be expressed.
Right. And know that art is not just it's not just sensory stimulation, right? Art has profound effects on the brain's health and cognitive effects and functions. And so, like when we look at like art therapy, we're looking at things of the Alzheimer's, right?
Mhm.
It can help and work through processes of the deterioration of Alzheimer's. And so it taps into the pathways, the neurological pathways, and it accesses, like you were saying, the memory and the
Mhm.
emotion and other things that have been lost in an Alzheimer's patient or things of that nature.
And I know in a lot of areas, like with Alzheimer's or even traumatic brain injury, what happens is our brain creates pathways, and then it'll create
Mhm.
shortcuts to
Right.
pathways, right? So the brain is basically, it wants to be as lazy as possible. So it gets kind of in these patterns, right? Like
Mhm.
just kind of like, like you drive to work the same way every day because you know how to go there and do that, and it's easy. So you do that. But the great part is when you're doing something like that with art in many forms, you can actually like light up different centers in your brain that haven't been accessed in a
Right.
while and start to create new pathways, which is just, super powerful. I mean, it really can kind of like light up parts of the brain that really weren't firing
Right.
before, and that can be like super transformative.
Right. Art therapy, I mean, it really has a great effect on people. It isn't just for people with Alzheimer's, though, right?
No, I mean.
It has a great effect on emotional trauma
Mhm.
for like children, for adults, anybody that has had like Rachel said, your brain shuts off these connections, right? And then the art brings that stuff back to life. It kind of creates that bridge to connect these things, right? It creates the creative mind with the other side of the brain. that kind of bridges everything and helps you with problem solving and things like that. So as we move through this conversation, we'll probably have things that trigger us as far as like my mother-in-law had dementia, and you know, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and so I know my mother-in-law used to color. Coloring was her great escape, right? And it would trigger stuff in her, like the flower that she was coloring would bring back a memory of her garden or things of that nature. And so it really is a great thing for people to help ignite those parts of the brains that the part of the brain that is not being active, or the part of the brain that has the disorder or the shutdown or the trauma.
Mhm. So, and also in dealing with like not just those aspects, so it'll also have like a profound effect on the central nervous system and
Hmm.
just like emotionally how we're thinking, feeling, and acting. So, a lot of times, like when you're super stressed or very emotional,
Right.
your body holds a lot of that in.
Right.
And if you don't have a great way to like express yourself, or you don't feel safe kind of expressing your emotions, this is a great way
Yep.
through whether it is like visual or auditory. It's a great way to get that out. So, a lot of times when you're coloring or drawing, it sends signals to the brain to tell you that you're safe. So it
Hmm.
can really create a calming effect. I remember during especially during COVID, I did so much coloring. Kind of, I wasn't seeing a lot of friends and
Hmm.
family. Like we weren't getting out. Like we were doing a lot of things like this, like being on Zoom.
Right.
And I just had so many thoughts and feelings, and I don't even know if I knew what they were.
Right.
And that was like one of the really great ways to kind of get that out,
Hmm.
was to just like was to color or to kind of create something that I did a lot of different creative endeavors during that time. Also, when I quit smoking years
Hmm.
ago,
Right.
I had a lot of like extra energy and just things I needed to do to get out, and I spent a lot of time. I did a lot of doodling
Hmm.
and a lot of coloring, just to kind of like, as like every time that I would want to maybe, you know, go out and smoke or something like that. And I would just do all these little like abstract patterns. It was
Hmm.
almost like writing in a way. And I would just like kind of do these little like, you know, just like odd little characters, like
Hmm.
almost like scripts kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And and then I would finish and I'd like sometimes I'd color it in, whatever. But it was just it really kind of helps me stay calm, like keep me from like freaking
Yeah.
out and getting the jitters when you know, when I really just didn't want to have that cigarette.
Right.
So that was, I mean, that was huge for me. And it was one of the ways, because I had tried so many different things when I was trying to quit smoking.
Hmm.
And that like really kind of like hit home for me.
Right.
It made it like it just made like it really helped me stay calm and like focused on what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And it really got me through like being
Well, and
able to quit
it keeps
smoking.
your hands busy,
Well,
right?
yes. And
Our
but it keeps your
hands
mind
need,
focused too.
yes. The reality is when you're quitting something, right? A lot of times smoking is hand mouth, right?
Hmm.
And so drinking, hand mouth, and it keeps your hands busy. It keeps your brain focused on something and your hands busy doing something, so you're not picking up something else to put to the mouth. Um, the other great thing about art and the brain is it it helps you tell stories, right? It helps you close gaps in things that you possibly don't understand when you know, when you have trauma. Sometimes you don't always know where the trauma comes from. You don't
Hmm.
know exactly what has triggered the trauma, but you know that you have trauma because it stops you from doing things, right? But when you do art, the one thing that you just said was the kind of the patterns, the
Hmm.
scribbling type patterns. Um, in art therapy, when you do that kind of art, and then you can look at it and make pictures out of your scribbles, it kind of tells your story. It kind of tells you what what's going on with you, and you can dive as deep as you want in those scribbles, right? You can
Mhm.
color them, you can take the outline and define it and things like that. So it's like an unconscious, like you're just allowing in like meditation, allowing your hand to do whatever and then focusing in on the scribble. And then you can kind of put these stories together for um, for you to understand what's going on. It's a really neat, it's a really neat practice. The other one is mandalas, like
Mhm.
to
Yes.
focus and work on mandalas and work on the same pattern through and through, and it kind of puts you in a meditative
Meditative
state.
state. Yeah, and it really does. It brings you to like a very present moment
Hmm.
awareness. So you're kind of, you're right here and now. You're fixed on what's happening there. And it also like it sends that signal. It's like that very calming signal to your nervous system that says that you're safe and like everything
Right,
is just like everything is always fine right here in the present moment.
right.
So
Right. Art can help us with uh, bridging gaps in stories and helps us with expression and things like that. But the thing about all of this, too, is when we are creating art or looking at art, it also releases dopamine, right? And so it has this great dopamine release. Art activity increases the brain's release of dopamine and it helps with the neural pathways. It gives you instant reward and pleasure, right? When you're looking at a piece of art or watching a play or listening to music, it's we talked about this in several episodes
mhm.
about how you turn on your favorite music, you're driving in the car and you're singing, and it just changes your mood. It gives you that immediately, like that instant, right? That instant, like, oh my God, this is so awesome. If you are feeling down and you just start drawing, singing, listening, whatever, it helps you with that. And then you already talked about the distraction. Art
Yeah.
is, it distracts the brain, right? And it keeps the brain busy when we are in distress or anxiety or anything like that. And so it really does. Art is just like this all encompassing thing that can really help you um, cope with
Mhm.
situations, give you just a really upbeat, good feeling, right? It really can help you when you are not feeling really well in your body or in your mind. It can help you. It can help you with bridging gaps. It could help you with
Mhm.
memory. Um,
It's a
the
great
one
form
thing,
of self-expression, so I
yes.
think that's what it is too. So sometimes there's just so much that you have in you, that you have going on, that, you may not be able to communicate
Hmm.
in other ways, and it's
Yes.
just, it's a great way of dealing with a lot of issues, and finding a way, like a creative, healthy outlet
Right.
for dealing with situations, emotions, and issues, as well as like health concerns.
Hmm.
It's really it's a wonderful like coping mechanism,
Yep.
and it's a healthy outlet. It's a
Yes.
healthy expression. It's a healthier, because we have like all these ways that we deal with things.
Right.
And this is going to give us kind of that reward that we need, right? So you get that dopamine release.
Hmm.
You get that instant gratification. And it's done in a healthy way that nurtures you,
Yes. Totally.
which is, I think, like one of the best parts about this. So instead of like having a cigarette or like a piece of pie or any of those other
Yeah.
ways, like any other kind of like stimulants that we're looking for to kind of fill that void,
Hmm.
this is a really healthy way
Right.
to kind of nurture all of that and to kind of give yourself what you need. If you're looking for stimulation or outlet or any of that, you can use art to kind of fill that void in a very healthy, uplifting way.
Absolutely. And I think that, I hear a lot of people that I work with tell me, "Oh, well, I'm not really good at art. I can't do art. I'm not really good at art." And the the reality of that is it is not it is not for other people to say what you're good at in art.
Mhm.
Art is your expression. Art is how you express. And whatever you're doing, that is art. Um, I look at I look at everything as art, right? When people cook, that's art, right?
Mhm.
How they present their food, how they cook, and the music that they listen to while they're cooking, or things of that. That's all art, right? That's all creating those dopamines and creating that sense of expression. When you cook for somebody, you are expressing yourself. When you draw a picture, you're expressing yourself. When you sing, you're expressing yourself.
Mhm.
When you um, doodle, just plain doodling, like, if you're just, like you said, just a scribble, right?
Yeah,
You
just
are,
for yourself. You don't have
yes,
to be like, this some like great artist that you're putting your pieces out there.
right,
It's literally just a kind of a way to calm yourself, to uplift yourself, to whatever you're
absolutely.
looking for in that moment. And there's so many ways where people can be creative and artistic that I don't really feel like they think about
Right.
so much.
And so when you look at things that you do in life and you look at what you're doing with passion, right? If you're
Mhm.
doing it with passion, it's an art. So, um, I invite you to look at things that way. I invite you to look at what you do in your life as artful, right? If you write down, like even if you're journaling, people that journal, I've seen some of the most amazing what they call scrap journals.
Mhm.
And what they're doing is cutting pictures out of magazines and they're taking what people call junk and they're putting them together in a book. That is art.
No,
That's a form of
absolutely.
expression. And so I invite you to really redefine
Yeah, what you think, like
what
your
you
perception
think.
of art. Yeah.
Yes, what you think is art. It is just not something that's hanging in a gallery.
No, for sure. There's so many, like, I like how you used cooking. I mean, I felt like I am not like, I'm not great at drawing, and I'm not great at, just painting, like, something very like, I couldn't paint, like, a picture of you, right?
Hmm.
But I can do a little bit more abstract kind of things. I
Hmm.
love to actually paint, like, I used to love to paint ceramics and just
Hmm.
add, like, texture and layer and
Right.
color over color. And that way, I was super creative when I did hair.
Hmm.
It was like a huge expression
Yes.
of in color, in the way that I, would do my haircuts or styling.
Hmm.
Like, and even just like the ways that you dress or do
Yes.
your makeup or present yourself can be very like artistic and a form of creative expression.
Yes. And um, so with that, right, with all of that, know that in essence, art has the power to heal. It has the power to inspire, transform our brains and our lives, right? Know that. And so we're inviting you to change your idea of expression and art and let it mold your brain into something magical,
Yeah.
right? Whether we're creating art for ourselves or simply to just appreciate art around your city or go to a play or listen to music, no matter what you're doing in an artful manner, it is profound, it is impactful, and it brings us. Also brings us together, right? We all have something that we're passionate about, and so it's just a beautiful way for what your well-being.
Yeah.
And so we invite you to really express yourself. in
even just take notice of all the
yeah,
things that you do in a creative manner and how they make you feel, like the little things like throughout your day, like when you're listening to music or watching a play
mhm,
or anything like that. Just kind of look at it maybe through a different perspective
right,
and see how you're using it in your own life to kind of like create uh just a change, like a sense of calm
yeah,
or something to just kind of ignite your passions.
yep. And so, with that, we thank you for joining us on exploring art and the impact on the brain, right? And
Yes.
so, until next time,
Thank you so much for joining us. Drop something in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll be back again next week with a brand new episode on YouTube and on Spotify. Look for us on Spotify.
yay! Woo! All right, bye.